Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026, and today we're talking about what to do if you can't trust your local mulch options, harvest bins, and some takeaways from the Oak Conference. So let's do it. All right, everyone, welcome to Tilth Tuesday, your weekly reminder that you can get living soil compost and potting mixes from the Bonafide nerds over there at Tilth Soil. Check out Nathan on the Composter Podcast, Season 4, Episode 3, or head to tilthsoil.com to learn more. I hope you all are doing and feeling well this week, so far at least. It's not really that far into the week, but anyway, nothing has changed here, and by the looks of it, not much will. Still, ground is completely covered with snow and frozen, with temperatures not high enough really to melt it. And maybe next week, hard to describe how unusual that is. Snowpack is not really a word that we have in the Kentucky lexicon, but the county has been out of school since last Monday with a bit more snow expected tonight. Maybe by March, everyone will return to life as normal. We'll find out. That said, yesterday was Groundhog's Day, and it didn't sound like Phil was particularly hopeful about the end of the winter, and he's never wrong. I think that's like a fact about groundhogs, so that's good. Also, wanted to send a shout out to our friends in the Carolinas and on the East Coast who got hit with a nasty winter storm this week, and hope all of our growers over there fared okay. Somewhat related, we really appreciate people sending in videos this week of their snow-covered farms. That was really cool. Enjoyed seeing those, and anyone can feel free to send those along, or any 20-second farm videos to farmermike@no-tillgrowers.com. Don't forget that tomorrow I will be going live at 9 a.m. Eastern to talk about whatever it is you all want to talk about, including but not limited to farming. And so bring your questions about Brighton and Hove Albion. It'll be super fun. All right. So I thought I would just take a few minutes to talk about some takeaways from the Organic Association of Kentucky Oak Conference this past weekend, which was a blast. It always is. First of all, shouts to the organizers and the many people who braved the cold and snow and came out to that event. Great stuff. And I know it's no small feat. There were 2 full days of sessions, but Oak does a great job of pacing these sessions, allowing for a lot of, hallway conversations. In fact, I've said this about, before about these sort of farming conferences. They provide a really important service to the farm communities that they serve by creating excuses for all of us to kind of get together and chat. Farmers rarely have the time or capacity to organize enough of our own, events and hangouts and that sort of stuff. So I greatly appreciate the farm organizations like Oak who give us a date and a time to be somewhere and to hang out with our friends and talk shop. Really appreciate that work. No doubt there's a bunch of learning going on the whole time, but there's also just a bunch of chatting about amongst growers. Maybe it's about raising our kids. Maybe it's about soccer. Honestly, if I'm involved, it is probably about soccer. At this point, I've known some of these growers for like 16 years. We've shared baby slings, and those kids have grown up playing together at these events, but we only get to see each other once or twice a year, usually at something organized by Oak. So big shouts to that. Anyway, the sessions were also great this week. We had a no-till growers booth, so I couldn't attend all of them as I was attending to the booth, but I enjoyed the ones I did get to sit in on. Emily Oakley of Three Springs Farm did in, I think they're out of northeastern Oklahoma, I believe, did a great one on growing their own fertility through cover crops, comparing their time using amendments and chicken manure as fertilizers versus when they stopped applying, those sorts of amendments and just started using cover crops as their sole fertilizer source. She discussed how effective it has been, demonstrated not only in production on farm, but also in their soil tests. It's cool to see people on their scale, which I think is like 3-ish acres in production, doing something like that. Now, it sounds like this does require some full years of sections being out, like just being in cover crop, but it was inspiring to see that sort of system working for them. It's exciting in general just to imagine reducing the ag world's reliance on outside inputs in this way. And Emily and her partner are very conscious of what they bring onto the farm, providing a really cool model for other growers to look to. Also a theme at the conference this week was that the United Nations deemed 2026 International Year of the Woman Farmer, and there was a lot of great focus on women at that talk, including a woman farmer panel moderated by our friend Ray of Bar Farms on Saturday that I thought was really great. At one point, Emily mentioned how many dudes were at her talk on cover crops, like myself, but how few were actually attending that woman farmer panel, as if to, a lot of those growers, it wasn't of the same level of importance to their farm success. And I really appreciated that. So often things like childcare and elderly care and all these things, these are the kind of questions that women get asked about, but they're also the kind of things that like fall on the wife, the mom. But those are things that affect the entirety of of the farm, and all parties are responsible for coming up with fair solutions and approaches to managing them. It is not uncommon for farming women to feel isolated and alone after, for instance, childbirth, losing a bit of their, farming identity as they take on a full-time child care. Systems should be discussed by both parents to ensure they can maintain some percentage of that after children come into the world. Obviously, men can't breastfeed or whatever, but nobody's asking them to. It's really just more about finding and planning for ways to break them out. Let mom get out for a little while and farm a bit. I think that is super important. I'm not going to pretend we fully did this or understood this going in, but Hannah, my amazing wife, moderated a panel on farming with families at the Oak Conference as well, and she shared one of our tricks, I guess, or the one of the tricks that we found or heard from other people that helped, which was just hiring someone to babysit a couple days a week. That way Hannah could just be freed up to farm or do whatever it was she needed or wanted to do that day. So instead of hiring a farmhand, the babysitter would watch the kids, and then Hannah could go be that farmhand. She was still available for the nursing and normal mom stuff, but also given that freedom to move around without worry and just enjoy the farm. Her farm. I helped where I could, obviously, to just hang out with the babies. I also love babies. That was not hard. But it's hard when the farm really needs both of us to function well. Family helps a great deal, obviously, but it's, like watching the kids and such, but it's not an option for everyone or for every day that you need it. We discovered, I guess, that you just have to have a better plan than that. And I liked that panel a lot, and expecting dads need that sort of panel as much, if not more, than expecting moms to understand it's not just mom's responsibility. Something I wish I had been more conscious of many years ago. So let me learn that lesson for you. Anyway, there was more that came up this weekend at the O Conference that I no doubt will discuss over time, but we're just going to stop there for now. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on all of this, or conferences that you all are enjoying, or maybe you heard a talk recently that just completely blew your mind. Let us know. Otherwise, it's break time, and then we look at mulching in a whole new light. Actually, it's the same light I always use, just like a studio light. Anyway, BRB. I don't think you should look directly into them, though, now that I think about it. Today's episode is brought to you by Tend. Farming is hard, running it shouldn't be. Meet Tend, the purpose-built platform built by farmers for farmers. Plan your season, map your farm, and track every task from seed to sale. No more spreadsheets, no more guesswork, just smart, seamless workflows. Tend adapts to your farm, 1 acre or 100. Real-time inventory, sales, labor, tracking, traceability, and analytics all in one place. You grow food, flowers, fruit, and more. Tend helps you to grow smarter. Start free today at tend.com. That's TEND.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Peaceful Heritage Nursery. If you're looking for hardy and resilient fruit trees, berry plants, or pawpaw trees, then check out Peaceful Heritage Nursery. Peaceful Heritage Nursery LLC is a mail-order nursery shipping premium quality fruit trees and berry plants across the USA. They specialize in resilient, non-GMO plant genetics for small growers. Their diverse selection includes berries, cold hardy figs, passion fruits, gumi, mulberry, and much more. They're famous for their diverse selection of premium quality grafted pawpaw trees. 5-star Google ratings and customer testimonials attest to their commitment to excellence in quality and service. Find them at peacefulheritage.com and join the mailing list. Once again, find them at peacefulheritage.com. Use the promo code NOTILL for 10% off your first order. All right, back to the show. If you, the listener or viewer, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere that questions come in, but I will always get to your Patreon questions. Now, today's Patreon question, it's actually more of a comment, but it comes to us from Patreon member Jesse Turretts, who writes, quote, "Hey Jesse, it's Jesse, Los Angeles County, Zone 10B home garden. I actually am lucky to have a glut of access to mulches and compost, including city-produced mulches and compost, but unfortunately, I can't trace any of the sources, and so I sort of just try to do what I can on my lot itself. A lot of chop and drop and mulching my fruit tree trimmings. I have a hard time getting access to trustworthy hay/straw/alfalfa. Found a couple of companies online that ship organic mulches and animal feed/bedding like this. Seems a little insane to have someone truck me something like this to Los Angeles from Washington State or Colorado, but it feels a little slim pickings in this urban environment. Hope this makes sense," end quote. All right, so this is definitely a situation growers will find themselves in. Basically, I want mulches. I want to make sure they are trustworthy and not contaminated, but I can't trust the mulches I can find locally, so should I just buy it in from somewhere else? Now, financially, that's going to be pretty, for most of us, it's going to be pretty hard to justify shipping mulches in. And of course, environmentally as well, shipping large quantities of heavy materials that far is not great. So what do you do? Well, I think, generally speaking, that the ideal should not come before the idea. Like in this situation, Jesse has access to a glut of materials, but just can't trust or at least know for sure their provenance. So perhaps in that situation, there is a way to treat them on farm, maybe a little composting or curing before applying them. That way you are, utilizing a local waste stream and not letting it go to waste, but also not creating more waste. Or perhaps one of the mulches available is wood chips, which I know growers south of you in San Diego who have access to abundant wood chips. So maybe you do too. That could likewise be an option for mulching certain things like perennials, or just allowing them to decompose to use later if you have the space. Or straw, for instance. If you can find that locally, the chances of it having an herbicide sprayed on it are fairly low, because that sort of desiccation is typically done in northern areas to help speed up the dry down process late in the season before the freezes come, but less so in warmer regions. It's just not super common. Not saying there won't be any residue, there could be, but just less likely if it's even mildly local to you there in 10B. And to test it, you can buy some of the straw and mulch a less important plant with it, maybe even just like a potted plant, and see if the plant has any issues. Or simply use the straw away from plants themselves, like in the pathways, and mulch in and around the plants with something else, like wood chips. Perhaps you can find a farmer in your area selling the straw, and they can tell you what you need to know about it, if it was sprayed or if there would be any risks there. And in fact, I know another farmer down south of you, there in San Diego, who also uses their local straw and doesn't have any issues with it. So compost is a little tougher, but getting a load and doing a bioassay will help. That is basically the bioassay, where you grow a legume in a tray of that compost or that soil mix or whatever it is, and you just see how the plants react. If they get spindly or odd looking or don't grow, that's a sign of contamination, and you wouldn't want to use that around plants. If the company won't give a refund, soak it and cure it for a year. Again, not ideal, but that's an option. For me, I like the idea of exploring what you have locally and finding ways to use it. Again, I'm not saying you are this way or any of us are this way, but it's important to remember that it's not about the ideal. It's about the idea. It's about the concept. The idea that is to make your area healthier, more abundant, richer, livelier, and sometimes that means taking advantage of the waste materials locally so they don't end up in a landfill somewhere. Sometimes it means taking in less than ideal materials as well to save on, the shipping and ultimately emissions, to save on, taking carbon waste from another location that probably needs it. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that. But you all can feel free to let me know what you think. Otherwise, we're going to take a quick break. And when we return, we will talk harvest binning. Be right backing. Sure. Okay, so this is the farm right now. So, like that snow or whatever. But it's like really hard. Like, I'm pulling. This is Excalibur's spade shovel. Like, I literally cannot pull the spade shovel out of the soil. Yep. Actually, I think that Excalibur and the Sword in the Stone are different swords, but either way, I got it. So I'm the rightful heir to this thing. Today's episode is brought to you by Certified Naturally Grown. Certified Naturally Grown is the grassroots certification built by farmers for farmers. C&G gives local growers like you recognition for the commitment of producing food without synthetic chemicals by assuring customers that your practices are verified. C&G's peer review inspection model keeps the cost of certification low while creating opportunities for knowledge sharing amongst a strong, supportive network of like-minded farmers. Apply today to be certified before the season ramps up. Applications processed within 7 days. Learn more at naturallygrown.org. All right, back to the show. All right, so harvest season is not really coming up for many of us, but perhaps tool buying season is upon you. Maybe you were thinking of the harvest and wondering what makes the most sense in terms of bringing stuff in out of the fields. Harvest is perhaps an area that gets overlooked when building a budget, because this is, if you do it right, one of the things you will use the most on your farm for the longest period of time. The yellow harvest totes we have are probably one of the oldest still in use pieces of equipment that we have on our farm. We bought these totes many, many years ago at some like Amish store that I don't think I could find if I tried again, where there was no attendant and you just had to look up the price in this little like booklet they have and leave the money, which was quite a sight for a business. Now, I cannot say who made the harvest totes we use, but I know there are similar bins out there, some of which may be better because they might have the full handle as opposed to these short sort of like fake little handles that our bins have. So instead of saying you need this or that exact bin, I'm going to give you some thoughts on what to look for, and you can hopefully find, the brand that works for you you locally for, cutting down on shipping costs and all those things, that fits you best. Now, I've cited this before, probably, hopefully, but the University of Vermont has done some of the best content on harvest bins with research and all, and I will include links in the show notes that they may be able to help file you into the right lane, which I don't actually think is a phrase. Is that a phrase? For the best version of the bin you need, first thing to consider is that one of the most important elements to good bins is stackability. For the squat yellow bins that we use, they can be stacked by alternating them. You just basically turn them around, and the way the bottoms work, they have it so that they will interlock or to stack on top of each other so as not to crush the stuff that is in them. So my preference, no matter what type of bin I'm after, is to find something that stacks really well like that. We use two main types of bins now, the squat yellow harvest totes and the taller walled bins with the attached finger latch lids that interconnect when you close them. Super helpful. Basically, when they are open, they can stack compactly together, which is nice for saving space. Then when you close them, they protect what's inside and stack securely on top of each other. You can't always say this about other bins that have unattached lids. You have to find those lids. Sometimes the cheaper bins can also get a little bit wobbly when you stack them, and there's nothing worse than walking into your walk-in on market day to see a bin tower had collapsed, dumping all of your radishes onto the floor that you will remember we grew yesterday for them to dry out. So anyway, yes, we like having one squat tote and one collapsible bin to at least that to harvest into. The collapsible bins are primarily for things like greens. That way we can harvest mini bins on a warm day, and then we can close the attached lid and shove them in the walk-in without fear of them drying out while we work our way through washing and packing the rest of the harvest. The yellow harvest totes we use for things like carrots or at harvest or radishes or whatever, or anything we plan to wash, or we'll use those totes for things like tomatoes and stuff that you cannot be stacked on itself very high. For market, we will also haul potatoes and such in those same yellow totes as they stack really well in the back of the van. Now, we do also own some regular food safe bins that we found at Lowe's or something in a pinch, and those will work fine. They just won't last as long or be as reliably stacked, and it's sometimes harder to find ones that are actually food safe. We still use some of our older ones, especially on bigger harvest days when the rest of the bins are occupied, some of those ones that we got from Lowe's. Some growers will also use the round vented harvest containers, which can be nice for dunking into large wash tanks. In fact, if you can transfer that straight to a spinner without having to use your hands, all the better. The less touching of any crop at harvest, the more profitable. So like harvest into bin, dunk bin, spin bin dry. That is a really great and lean system. I love that. We also have some baskets that we use, which I like for their non-plasticness, but are a little hard to reliably stack. We do stack them, to be clear, but it's a little iffy. Mostly we use these for crops like potatoes and sweet potatoes. We also use them for display at market, which I liked the look of, but wasn't, like always the most practical thing. Square things are much better for stacking. I'm sure that's not a mystery to anyone. Anyway, there are a bunch of food safe options out there, but them's the basics. What do you all use? Let us know. And otherwise, we'll talk about that stuff on Friday. Otherwise, we're going to take one more quick break, but this time, when we come back, it will be Wednesday and we will be live. So make sure to tune in at 9 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow for that. Otherwise, that's it for this Tilth Tuesday. Don't forget, No Till Growers is now officially a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That's an easy way to help us out as well. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors. And if you'd ever like to sponsor this show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at notillgrowers.com. She'd love to hear from you. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music, Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing, and my wife Hannah for absolutely everything in the world. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. Pick up a hat or a copy of my book, The Living Soil Handbook, at notillgrowers.com to support this work. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/notillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, or you sign up in the month of February, you get a shout on the show. So big shout outs today to it's a little bit of a bummer. We have no new signups for Monday. We'll just have to wait to see what James B. Flanagan, saw in his YouTube footage. Yeah, we'll do that on Thursday because we'll be live tomorrow. Anyway, thanks for watching and or listening. We will see you then. Bye.